Welcome, Maria, to our conversation about your dogs and education and personal growth and your work growth. We'll see where this takes us. Say a few words about who you are and tell us about your dogs.
Mm, Thank you. It's really nice to be here in this virtual meeting. So my name's Maria Jones, and I worked as a teacher for 11 years, but I am nowadays an editor and work at a publisher's, and we produce textbook material for schools. Um, I have two dogs. They are Portuguese water dogs. One is called Higgins and one is called Payas, and they are 7.5 and 2.5 years old.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah,
And you enjoy them both.
I love working with my dogs. Yes.
Okay. Tell me about the names. The names are, it's interesting. How did you name them and what do the names represent for you?
Yes. Well, the breeder, they named their litters according to the alphabet. So Higgins was in the H litter. So we wanted to come up with a name that started with an H. And of
Right.
course, I love Pygmalion, the play by George Bernard Shaw. So Professor Higgins was a perfect choice.
Hmm.
So he's Higgins. The other one, Pius, which means jester, was a bit more difficult because the obvious name would have been Pygmalion for that dog, but it sounds too much like Higgins when you call them Higge and Pigge, so that wouldn't work.
Okay.
Uh, so my daughter came up with a name,
Mhm.
Pius, and he is quite the jester, so it suits him.
Now, one of the things I do in these interviews, and this is like immediate because it's really, really interesting that almost always there's a pattern that comes out where there's two contrasts, not in dog names, but in just, for life advancement or personal growth, when you combine, structure with love or structure with spontaneity, and your dogs are contrast, the jester and the professor.
Yes.
And uh, what's the professor part of you?
Oh, the professor part of me. I am a teacher. I'm a licensed teacher. I am extremely organized, and I I love knowledge and I love teaching as well. So I suppose that goes hand in hand with the name Higgins and the professor.
If you were to develop a professorship side of you, if you were to develop that intellectual side of you, what would you want to do more of?
Ooh. I did consider when younger to study Irish literature
Mm.
on a deeper level, but I decided to do other things and uh, went to work for a few years and then I never went back.
But if you
So
were to develop this literature, interest in literature, what would you do? I'll get back to your dogs in a while. I'm just
yeah,
following
yeah,
this
yeah.
path
No,
from
no,
the
no.
side.
I really enjoyed literary criticism and
Ah.
deconstruction. Really was one of the things that I was very interested in.
So if you
Um,
were to do more with this right now, what would you do?
right now,
Mm.
oh, I think the first thing would be to go back and just do a course, try to refresh
Okay.
my knowledge of. I think
Okay.
meet
I'm
like-minded and discuss, being a bit nerdy. I think. Yeah.
okay. Allowing yourself to be a little bit nerdy.
Yes.
That's a good one. I like that. I think about if I were to go back to university, I'd study literature, the history of literature, uh,
Mm.
which I had no interest in at that time, but it's something that's interests me now because I think it's another way to learn about society and
Yeah.
personality and psychology and all that kind. Okay, and then the jester side. If you were to
The
develop
jester
yourself
stuff.
as a jester, what would you do more
Well,
of?
I think when training with dogs, you pretty much have to be a bit of a jester to get them inspired and interested in what you're doing and to follow your lead. And I think I was a jester when I was a lot younger as well.
Uh,
Um, I sort of chose that role in groups quite often. So
Okay. So did you like that?
yes, yeah,
Yeah.
it was
So
just for
what's an
fun.
example of something you could bring back from the past that that
I
part of you
think
that
from the past, I think I already do when training with the dogs, actually,
okay.
because I go extremely silly, and I can always also, I mean, have some fun with my daughters when they are being a bit too serious. I can be a bit silly with them.
Okay.
So,
But you see, that's a very good combination, the professor and the
mm,
jester. It really works well in many different situations. I can recognize a little bit of myself. I'd like to take out the jester part of me. When I'm on stage, I can do it, but in my daily
yes.
life, you know.
Oh
Oh,
yes.
well,
Yeah.
thank you. So
Yeah. I've always
what
enjoyed.
do you enjoy most with the dogs? So what do you appreciate most with your dogs? What's special
I
about
mean,
them?
they are extremely good-natured dogs. They're very friendly,
Mm,
and whenever anybody is feeling ill or a bit down, they are there directly to comfort you. So they are
empathetic
they
dogs.
get me out of the house as well. So keep me active, and because I do a bit of training with them, I meet other people
Mhm.
that are trained together with. So a lot of the social bit comes in there as well.
Okay. Oh, that's interesting. That's a lot,
It is.
and I'm sure you appreciate that. Uh,
Mm.
well, if you were going to be oh, develop this spontaneousness, I mean, what are other things that you could do with the dogs that you're curious about, but you haven't tried out yet?
Oh, I I've tried quite a few things with them actually.
Hmm.
The activities I haven't tried are activities that don't really tempt me, I suppose.
All
But
right.
I mean, I've done quite a lot of agility, obedience,
Mhm.
dancing and tricks and such things. So
What do,
nose work I haven't
well, what do you
tried.
enjoy doing most with them?
At the moment, it's what is called rallylydnad, so having fun with obedience. So that's
Having
really,
fun with obedience. These are another
yes.
this contrast with you. If
Yes.
I may ask a little personal question about your work, as an editor, uh,
Mm?
combining the nerd with the details and with the creativity about how can this be twisted and how can this be more interesting and things like that. Is that something that you actively think about?
I do a lot of that because I write a lot of texts. So I do a fair bit of creative writing
Mm,
at work as well.
mm.
So I'm an in-house author. So I really get to use a lot of creativity, and at the same time, the organized side of me is necessary to structure the texts and to adapt them to suit different year groups and schools and such. So
All right.
I do
So one
use.
of my final questions is, if what are you learning from your dogs that you could use at work? It's a strange, abstract question, but what was your
Yes,
spontaneous thought about that?
to pay attention and try to follow the lead of some something unexpected, maybe when it's something I'm not used to. Try to understand how to go about it to be successful.
Okay. So there's certain what I look for when I'm having these conversations. I look for key words, and
Mm.
the professor and the jester, combining them, allowing yourself to be a nerd. That's just fine. Allowing yourself to be creative and spontaneous. That's great. And you're finding that pattern works for you of having that balance. It works in your personal life, and it works absolutely in your work life. So I'll just keep enjoying your dogs, and I love the names. I love that combination, and I appreciate so much you sharing with me. Is there